Andrew, what did you bring?
I brought a hat.
Let's see it. Okay, all right, well, dig into this hat. Looks like it's been around for a bit.
It's a little bit worn.
Nice. All right, thank you. And then Nuria, what did you bring?
I bought my a flyer for my short film. Redeploy.
Redeploy.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. Oh, Andrew's already curious. Yes, this is what we want. Welcome, those of you who are tuning in to the podcast, Not Quite Strangers, is an opportunity for two people who have not met each other before, but know each other through me to meet, connect, build some curiosity, or hopefully even challenge the status quo through our conversation. First of all, I'm just so grateful that the two of you said yes to being on this show. I've had a lot of other guests, and I think this particular topic thought would be really interesting for us to discuss because both of you happen to be veterans. And I thought, it might be interesting to have a conversation with two veterans, perhaps two different generations, or thinking about where you are in life now or the impact the military's had on you. So those of you interested in hearing this conversation and many more, you want to make sure that you subscribe to www.notquitestrangers.com so that you get a notification in your inbox anytime a new episode is released. And you also get information about any upcoming episodes. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Now, Andrew, let's go back to you. You brought this hat. So what is this hat and what impact does this hat have on you in your life in the military?
Well, the hat has an emblem on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the emblem is the unit that I was serving with in Texas, Fort Hood, Texas.
Fort Hood,
First Cavalry Division, Fort Hood, Texas.
And so what is it about being in Fort Hood, Texas, and that particular emblem that you felt, what was the impact that experience had on you? Like why the hat?
Well, it just reminds me, I reflect on that image going back to my time in Texas. And, it wasn't just, the emblem represents the military, but it's just the whole thing of living in Texas.
Why? What? Okay, so you got to say more. Texas. Why?
It was a good time in my life.
Fort Hood. Okay.
The happier times in my life. I'll say that.
Happier.
I was younger, experienced, developed really good, lasting relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just reflects. I reflect back on that image.
When you think of the good times you had in the military, Fort Hood comes to mind, and the hat is a reminder of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it brings up other conversations. People say, hey, first team, first cab, and it's a conversation as well. It brings up not just, from other people.
When they see you, do you wear it? Do you wear it?
Well, I wear it sometimes. I don't like hats that much, but when I wear that, it's like if I'm going to work, because I work at a VA regional center here in Philadelphia. So, I go into that mode because I work with veterans.
Got it.
And I enter, I take my hat off and check in and get myself ready for all that.
Okay. So the hat brings a lot of meaning. We're gonna come back a little bit to more detail about your experience. But I want to bring in Nuria. Nuria, tell us about this flyer for the short film. Okay. Andrew looked puzzled when you said, you're like, a short film, what is this?
So could you go back to the question? Because I don't want to go off.
Yeah, no, so I was asking each of you to bring something that represented the impact the military had on you, some object item, something that you could share. And you shared I think it's called deploy, right? Yeah. Redeploy. So what is this?
So this is a short film that I wrote and directed in 2013. And it was about acceptance. It was about a soldier who was in search of peace, of the peace that he lost overseas. So it had to deal with acceptance. It had to deal with, people not understanding you, and just accepting the things that you can't change in life, and knowing that it builds character and in order for you to move on.
What
So,
inspired you to do that?
I think in a sense it was kind of my story in the beginning, because when I went to film school, they kind of stressed the importance of writing something that was close to you, something that you understood. And me being a veteran and having PTSD and those stems of that, from that, it opened me up to like getting the tools that I needed in order to like function in life. Not saying that I wasn't functioning, but I think at one point I didn't identify with it. And I think with this film, I didn't. And it was the beginning of identifying with PTSD and saying, okay, yeah, that's what that is. Yeah. So it had to deal with me accepting that. At the time, I didn't know that, but as I did the film festival journey and just traveling with the film and getting people's testimonials from just watching the film, or who had PTSD or what they felt from it, or that it came from a real place, it made me know just being honest with myself resonated with everyone else. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's powerful, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I need that film.
It's a short film. It's only 15 minutes, but I think it was the beginning of just being honest and opening up. And I think at the time I didn't know that, but it took me like 2 days to write it. It was something that came out like that. So I guess when you're being authentic to the truth of who you are, and that's just how it has to be.
Oof.
Yeah.
So in 2 days, this just came through you, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually toiling with someone else's book. I was trying to adapt their book and make it smaller into a short film, but then I felt like I was in a box and I didn't have freedom, with the choices. So I felt like, oh, let me just try this. But I felt like this was like a stigma. Like, if no one wants to see a military film, like, why you want to do this just because you're in the military? It was like, I didn't connect with that. That side. I kind of like disowned that, like, no.
Well, I want to hear more about the military experience you had. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to introduce the two of you, because in my conversations, first I should say that Nuria and I are cousins, right? Our parents are brother and sister. And Nuria, I've heard you talk very, very briefly, though. I mean, it's interesting that you're talking now about how you had to accept that part of you, because you don't bring it up often. We don't get a chance to have those types of conversations very much. And when you shared, I heard so much passion and purpose around the projects that you're taking on as a result of the life that you've had in the military. Like that seemed to have sparked so much creativity, at least from the way I heard it. I was like, we need to have more of this conversation. And then I'm like, person that came to mind is Andrew Brazington, because Andrew, you and I have also had some great conversations. You've been a fan of this show. And also you and I did some leadership development work together. And we had a conversation recently about your commitment to supporting and finding resources for veterans. And you already do some of that in the work, but it sounds like you also want to continue to expand and move it to the other parts of the country. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what could happen here with the two of you, but.
I mean, it's even taking it from here to here.
Yeah.
I'm involved here in Philadelphia with an independent filmmaking organization that's been around for 30 years called Scribe Video. And they bring in independent filmmakers, and it's phenomenal. So it's good. It goes from here to here now. I mean, we could talk more about all this, because it's it's about community economic development. And then you're talking about tying in a passion, that's what people need. That's what they're looking for,
So give people a sense of when we say military or the Army, it's so broad, right? So Andrew, can you tell us where you served, when you served, all that stuff, and Nuria, same, for how long? Give us a little bit of the bio there.
Well, let me see. So I served during peacetime. So that's in between like Gulf War and Vietnam. So I was at back.
You don't have to give us all of the places, but give us a range. What years? What years was that?
A military. I served at Fort Hood, which is the largest Army post in the U.S. Army. It's over 40,000 soldiers right there at Fort Hood, Texas, which is near Austin. It's not too far from Austin. And I was there for 4 years. And, basically, went everywhere, developed positive relationships and, saw Texas. I actually picked up a Texas accent also, I think.
It's gone now.
It's gone. But it's just, military is like, it's a job, but you're trained to do certain type of things. So my job was personnel management, in first CAV. So I did assignments, people come, soldiers come to Fort Hood from other places like Europe or, South America, wherever they come from. And then we make assignments in our unit to different places. So I was, looked at people's personnel records and I made an analysis of basically what their job was. And you make assignments to people.
Okay, got that. So you're doing some of the administrative. Yeah. How many years did you serve?
Just 4.
4 years?
For active duty.
Active duty years.
Yeah.
Got it.
And something Nuria was talking about also, I'm a disabled veteran as well. And that's actually what I do now. I work for a nonprofit organization that assists veterans and family with, pension and compensation benefits. I mean, this whole year, COVID year, I was working from home. I've been back in the office now about a month, and I have seen more widows. This is true. I've seen about a dozen widows in this few weeks than I see like in a whole year. So, and what I'm talking about there is that, a veteran might be service connected. That means they got an injury or, an incident, an accident, an injury, a disease. They picked up something in the service. So that's a service connection. So these widows that came in, and I can give one example because I'm not giving any names, right? So this veteran was 100% paranoid schizophrenic. Paranoid schizophrenic for over 10 years, right? So he's married to a person, and he died last year. He died January last year. So his wife came in. She's a surviving spouse. And she didn't know. She didn't even bring any paperwork with her the first day. She just, people just don't know what to do. Yeah. So she came in and she wanted to apply for some benefits. And I explained it to her, but she didn't have anything. But we still went through with the process and filled out the application. And she just brought the paperwork in the next day. And it turns out, he passed away from a non-service connection issue. He had a heart attack. So there's no direct connection with that heart attack and his paranoid schizophrenic. Okay. So she didn't qualify for one aspect of it, but we still put in a pension because her only income was Social Security.
That's good. Okay.
So, and that's what I do now. So I'm still serving in a way,
Yeah.
Asking questions and kind of bringing out, a lot of issues that people don't want to talk about it, maybe. They definitely don't talk to the doctor about it. Veterans don't talk to their doctor about what they did in the service. And the doctor needs to know really, if we want help and assistance, usually a doctor can direct us, whether it's orthopedic, behavioral health, anything, neurological, anything to do with the injury. Everything stems back to that
from that time
military service. And that's how you develop a claim. You develop a claim.
Let me interrupt for a second. Let me ask you guys something, because I'm hearing it from both of you now. It's quite interesting. We celebrate here in the US Memorial Day, for example.
Coming up.
And someone told me recently. They asked me, what does Memorial Day mean to you? Now, my father was in the military for 27 years in the Army. I have a younger brother who's retired Marine for 20 years there. So both of them, thank goodness, successful in their careers. And my brother deployed a few times. His wife deployed a few times in the Marine as well, but both of them came back fine. What I think is interesting, though, is when we celebrate Memorial Day in the US, generally we're talking about fallen soldiers, right?
Yeah.
But I think for me, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because for me, it's not just the soldiers, it's the communities in which they fought. There's so many people that are impacted by any war, any I don't know, incidents that happen during war, right? Civilians, military personnel, all sorts, local and from abroad. I think that's one thing. And then the other thing is the families that are left behind. And it's interesting to hear the two of you talk about the impact, the time that you had in the military had. My brother and father, I'm talking in terms of like, decades. What you both are pointing to is that in the short amount of concentrated time, it had a severe impact on not only the quality of life that you have, but also the things that now you're doing to either educate others or to support or provide resources. Nuria, I'm curious about you mentioning that you kind of disassociated from that experience. What was it about? First of all, when did you serve? How long were you there? And what was it about the military that you felt you wanted to disassociate?
I think at the time it was the leadership that I had. I didn't have good leadership. So when you don't have good leadership and you have people in place that shouldn't be leaders, power, things don't go right.
Yeah. How long did you serve?
3 years.
3 years in the Army, right?
Yeah, 3 years, but I did 2.5.
Okay.
Out on a chapter.
What does that mean?
A chapter early release.
Okay, got it. Due to leadership.
Not due to leadership,
Yeah.
well, yeah, bad leadership, because I was supposed to get out on a medical prior to like deploying. I was diagnosed with like mild sleep apnea at the time. So I didn't seek treatment. So it made me not deployable, non-deployable. And they felt like they were needed to strengthen numbers still. So anything went at the time. So I was trying to fight to come back. So any little thing that occurred, it trickled it on over to something else. Yeah. And it just like, we're not getting out on medical. We're going to do another chapter. Yeah.
Andrew, I see you have questions. What questions do you have? Your face is.
No, it's a lot of personal stuff. I don't want to, in a venue like this, leadership is an issue anywhere, but particularly in the military, because your soldiers are the ones you have to support, because they're the ones that carry out the mission.
Yeah.
And if you had an understanding on something, and it turned in 180 degrees the other direction, what years were you in?
2001 to 2003. 2004.
That's like Gulf War stuff.
Yeah, Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah.
And Enduring Freedom.
What was your MOS?
92 Yankee Unit Supply Specialist.
I was 75 Charlie, so that's personnel.
Personnel. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's admin. That's 4. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked for a warrant officer.
Good job.
Kept track of all the people. So so either one of you, love for you to answer this question, as you are coming back, right, from the experiences you had when you left the military, at the time you left it, what was that experience? Like, what, if you had to describe it to someone coming back to civilian life, let's say, was what?
Andrew first.
for me, yeah, I'm 61 years old now. And I I got out in 1988. So I was 28 years old. And, my transition out of the military was fine. I came back to Philadelphia. I worked on a regional rail for a year, and it was a good experience, but, people aren't leaving their jobs. And I was in a program, so people weren't leaving their jobs. And so, you get let go after a year, the engineers are not leaving those jobs on a train, So, and then I go back to Texas because I had a good experience there. So, I mean, the transition for me is not
that little dog.
The transition for me wasn't difficult at that time, but as I got older, stuff started falling apart.
What do you mean?
And I'll give you the perfect example. It's probably about 1997 or something, like 98. I come back to Philadelphia after living in Texas all that time. And I get a cataract operation. I was 38 years old, 1998. Had a cataract removed. And I didn't know why I had this. Cataracts are for old people, right? You think about that. I had a grandmother. She was 96 years old. She had a cataract operation. Took 8 hours to remove that cataract. So mine was like 30 minutes at the VA hospital here in Philadelphia. But it was from trauma years ago. It took that long for that lens to cloud over. You see what I'm saying? So I didn't know why. But I had trauma in the service, and I didn't make the connection. And until my friend said, "Hey man, you better file a claim." And this was like 2010, 2013. So that's years later.
Yeah. So that's where you're talking about service connection. That would have been. Yeah.
And you got to tell your story. You got to tell what happened. I mean, I remember.
What do you remember?
I remember I had this motor vehicle accident. I was thrown from my vehicle. I came to in a hospital. The hospital was called Stonewall Jackson Hospital. You know, Stonewall Jackson was a Confederate soldier. I'm just laughing about it now because I come to in a hospital in Virginia, the heart of the Confederacy.
So, but you were stationed there?
No,
you were overseas at the time.
No, I was headed back from Philadelphia to Texas.
Okay,
I was driving.
It.
So, and I was going to have a promotion board on that Monday. See, the details I can remember, and you have to tell your whole story to get the service connection. So, I said, I missed my promotion board. So that's in the record.
I see.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to give details of what happened and get support for your story. People that you serve with. I was blessed to have really two good friends that I still am in contact with. One lives in Texas, one lives in Florida. They know the story too. So they told their perspective on my story, and I submitted that with my claim.
Okay.
And that's what you have to do. So but the question was, I forget the question.
I forgot the question too, Andrew. That's okay. We can toss it.
But what it is like I say, I was 38 years old. I got a cataract removed. So, but I suffered that injury back in like 85, 86. And it took that long. And like now, I have other injuries as a result of that. I was assaulted. I was assaulted in the military playing basketball. Guy sucker punched me. I come to, I'm in Darnell Hospital, 7 stitches over my eye. So stuff adds up over time. As you get older, the injuries are still there. And I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying, you just have to, people don't know why they doing stuff or stuttering. People start stuttering or you start crying for no reason, maybe. There's reasons for things.
Mm.
And like Nadi said, um, she recognized things and she faces things. At some point you do want to face, you want to say, what's up, what's going on, and let me face this. So, and that's beautiful, doing creating movies, creating that, those are stories, It's beautiful.
Nuria, what about for you? When leaving the military right after those 3.5 years, what was life like coming back for you?
I feel like you have to ask me another question. Well, no, like, break it down for me. Like, what exactly? Because it's so broad.
It is broad, yeah. And I mean, I don't know what was important to you at the time, what you came back to, how you felt about life, how you felt about having left. I mean,
come back and to start something new.
Yeah.
I think the military kind of like, you just get up and pick up and you start over type of mentality. So like doing that was a venture to me to try something new. Like if it was a 4-day week and I'm going away, I'm coming back different, or without whatever was on my mind, it's no longer on my mind or whatever. But, when I got out the military, I wanted to get started. I felt like everyone that I graduated with from high school, everyone probably graduated from college, everyone was ahead, and I felt like I had a little setback. So I was like in a rush to do things, in a rush where that they would say, no, like take your time, take your time. You just got out and a lot of things occurred, you should take your time. And I felt like there's no time to waste. We don't have time in life. Time goes, and the more I sit, the more I waste time. So I was ready. Like I came out in October. I was out processed by January. I was in school by September. I was in school, by September. But then I realized that it was different vibe for me. It's been some time that I was outside of school and the kids were younger. They were like immature to me, laughing, very serious about things and just watching everything and just very quiet, analyzing things. But it's like, you know what you want to do and you just got to get the job done. So that's how my focus is. Yeah.
What, I'm curious for both of you, what did your family and friends not understand about that time in your life that you would have loved for them to understand or for them to even ask about?
I don't know what I would ask for them to understand, because I felt like when I came back, everybody was in their own sectors in life. Everyone was doing their own thing. It wasn't the same thing as before. Everyone grow up, everyone, it's different. So as far as what I wanted them to understand or anything, I felt, and to be honest, I felt like they didn't understand me. I felt like when I left, I was a young person. I was younger. I was the Nuria who left. And then when I came back, I was the soldier who returned, right? So there's two different people there, two different transitions at that time. So I felt like they didn't understand that. They wasn't ready to accept that. They wasn't ready to accept the honest me.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Like the honest me, I feel like I'm a person that's very blunt. I'm honest.
You were that way before though, right?
Yeah. And some people don't know how to accept that sometimes. Okay. So they can look at that as in some kind of way.
So that was the part that they weren't.
Yeah, they didn't understand. And I think that they lacked the compassion to want to understand. But what they were quick to do was to pass judgments.
Yeah, I get that, and I can imagine. My dad, my brother, my godfather was also in the military, 27 years, and they don't go into detail very much about what they experienced, what they heard or saw. Every once in a while, there's a story here and there. I know there's stuff that's deeply impacted them that none of us have any clue. As much interaction as I have with the three of those men in my life, none of them have ever said, this is something deep and profound that's happened to me as a result of the military. not at least in a way that I could hear it. So I get Nuria, and I don't know if that's the case, with families for sure. It's hard for me to tell, but I know there's so many things that we that have never had that experience will never understand. We don't even know. I don't like, even in this conversation, I'm like, I'm not really sure what to ask. Like, am I allowed to ask about PTSD? Am I allowed to ask about what disability injury? Like, am I, there's all of these, I don't know if taboo is the right word, but there are these, there's this uncertainty because we do, I think in this country anyway, hold the military to a certain regard. And there's so many things that are classified, and maybe I watched too many movies, but you're like, am I allowed to ask about those questions? Am I allowed to ask about those moments? I don't know. Andrew, what would you say to all that?
Well, I think, when you're talking about people's health,
Yeah.
you heard of HIPAA.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like,
tell us what it stands for, just so for those that don't know.
I forget what the acronym is.
I think it's Health Information Protection Act.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll look it up. We'll put it in the show notes.
It's personal stuff, so you can't give the information. It's like someone's social security number.
Sure.
You can't give that out. Or, I have this thing in our country, a lot of law enforcement folks on all the different levels, they're ex-military. So like you're saying, Valerie, you don't know what those guys and women have experienced. What kind of trauma have they experienced? What kind of incident, accident, illness, disease? Because when you're talking about PTSD, that's a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. That's what a doctor gives you. I gave the example of the paranoid schizophrenic veteran, mm-hmm. right? I don't know anything about him. But he had that diagnosis for over 10 years. 10 years. And, he went into the military as a clarinetist, playing a instrument. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what experience did he have that gave rise to that diagnosis? You see? And then his wife, what did she have to deal with? That's all personal stuff. And, so when I said law enforcement, we see all this wrongful misconduct, all this law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? It's like George Floyd was killed a year ago.
Yeah.
And so the people that we entrust, you can carry a pistol on your hip legally, law enforcement. What did they experience if they were in the service? Even in civilian life, even they never went to the, they might have experienced domestic violence as a child.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of there's something going on in all of us. We all experience things. But my point is that with law enforcement, should people that have those diagnoses have a pistol? Yeah, and because it's real. It's real. Yeah. It's real. It's a lot of issues going on. So, but it's better to deal with things than not deal with them. Mm-hmm. You want to resolve your issues. You don't want unresolved issues, because then it's like, you always be living in the past. You want to resolve your issue.
Yeah. So what does one do? And I don't know what kind of, Nuria, what happened that you all of a sudden decided that this film was gonna be the thing that resolved your issue, like Andrew said, or that you had an opportunity to express something that maybe you weren't able to express to others?
I don't think, like I said before, I don't think at the time when I did it, I didn't think it was going to resolve anything.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I just thought I was doing a film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought I was being honest. And that's it. I thought I understood what the character was going through. So that's the first step with it. But the aftermath of it was learning that, yeah, okay, that I identify with this character. And now I see that it resonates with people. I see that being honest is the key thing that's going to help me. And that may be something that works for me and what I'm doing. That's what motivates me to work. You know, you have to be interested in what you want to do in order to even move on it. So,
yeah,
you know, not only just this, but the podcast that I told you about, the Woman of War, and just creating the safe haven for not just women, but people that go through stuff and need resources and tools, and being able to, you know, help him, like what you said with your nonprofit stuff, does, like even with claims and stuff like that. And, you know, I have more about that too, that to pitch this podcast. I have opportunity.
Can you share with us what that is? Because Andrew doesn't have any clue, and the listeners will probably be.
Well, I'm still
curious about
building it. I'm still building it, but it's called Women of War. And at the time when I thought of it, I thought of just identifying with other women that have been through war in general, life. And I think when it's not just a military thing, I think, and it's not just a female thing, I think everyone goes through this in a battle in life. But most specifically, because I'm a woman, I want to reach out to other women and not just have it to be about women, but also include others in the community that identify with what we're, the message, you know, just trying to help outreach.
To get that message out there about
awareness.
Yeah. Got that.
And the resources available.
And that's another thing, because as a veteran and trying to capitalize on these claims, I feel like the resources weren't out there like that just to say, well, here, this is what you do. It's not like that. It's not, it wasn't easy. It's like I got denied and, you know, I had to appeal. And then it's like, you feel like I don't even want to try and stuff like that. And then it's like, you have these issues, you have these medical issues that you have to seek for. And it's like, they see this, but then it's like a way to do the paperwork. It's a protocol. I don't know, for me, I just got a lawyer to help with that process.
Yeah, the VA knows nothing about you.
Yeah, but just don't.
I'm just saying, they, you know, when claims come in, they're looking at these claims and they know nothing about you. They don't know what you did. You know, you have to tell them. Now they have to do their due diligence. They have to do their research. They have access to find, you know, Department of Defense, DOD files, you know, personnel files, medical files, all kind of files, you know. And it's a tough, some people say it's a game, you know, but and particularly if you had a diagnosis before you got out, that's like golden, you know.
And it was hard at the, you know, to get it when I first got out. It was like I tried, I think, the first time, and then they did approve it, and certain things they denied, and it was like became a struggle. And the chapter that I got out on, I didn't have any benefits, so I lost my MGI bill. I lost those things. I didn't qualify for unemployment. I had nothing. Yeah. So it was done in a way where that I had nothing, and that I got no benefits, that I received anything, nothing. So in order to receive things was either by the VOC rehabilitation program, when I started to get percentage, which is another program that helps veterans with school, stipends and stuff like that, monthly stipends, and whatever it is you need in your career interests and stuff. So I found other avenues, and, you know, even doing an upgrade, you know, helps you to open up to get your MGI bill and start to qualify for other things, but everything was a process. It was a process and trying to figure it out. And it mainly the people that I met, the veterans that I met along the way, who told me, okay, this is how you do, this is what you need to do. And it's not out there available to you like that. It's not. So if you don't know and you don't know anyone, you're not going to try, you're going to feel defeated. Because I started to feel like, what? It's not mine, whatever. I don't have time for this.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
I mean, I give you a good example, I think, of which is kind of not your story, but yeah, I met this veteran. He was in the Marines, and he was a boxer. He was a boxer. This guy was a boxer. He's from Philadelphia. I said, man, did you ever get knocked out? So he said, yeah. I said, man, you weren't a good boxer if you're from Philadelphia. Because Philly's known for boxing and all that. But he said, no, man, and he got a dishonorable discharge, which that's a whole nother conversation. You're not even eligible for health care.
Yeah.
You can't go to the hospital for help if you're a veteran. But this brother was on the boxing team at Camp Pendleton, right? And he was on the boxing team. I said, can you prove that you were a boxer? Did you have bouts? Did you have scheduled fights? He said, yeah. I said, did you ever get knocked out? He said, yeah. Did they take you to the hospital? Yeah. Well, hey, listen.
Service connection.
Yeah, but he went from Camp Pendleton to Japan, and I don't know what happened in Japan, but he got dishonorable discharge. So, some of the symptoms from, a concussion, you could have problems with your sight. You could have problems with your hearing. You could have problems with headaches. I mean, there's all kind, concussion. Look at the basketball, football players, professional. They have to sit out 2 or 3 weeks for concussion protocol. I mean, it's well documented about professional athletes that get concussions. So you're a boxer, you're boxing for your military company. You're a soldier. Yeah. So, and your organization that I work for, we do nothing legal. We don't do legal stuff.
Wait, that doesn't sound right.
No, it is. No, it's not like.
So you don't provide legal support.
No, and like getting a discharge turned around from dishonorable to general, maybe.
Got it.
We don't do that. Yeah. You do have to go legal route
in order to get that
for that particular situation. I'm talking about dishonorable.
Sure.
So,
okay.
But whatever happened in Japan, he probably got in a fight, and it's a lot of racial stuff in the military too. Like your father, a career man, he came in contact. Just ask him. It's just like law enforcement, all black law enforcement. And I'm assuming your father's African American or black, right?
Yeah.
I don't like to assume things, right? I shouldn't assume stuff. But my point is that even in law enforcement in this country, you ask every law enforcement person that has a career in law enforcement, have you ever experienced racial issues? Every one of them says yes. I mean, I've seen all the top ones, all of them, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, all of them. They say, they acknowledge that this stuff happens. Imagine the emotional trauma on that. You got to be hard to kind of push through that racial stuff. And a lot of people don't. In the military, they don't.
Interesting.
I mean, Colin Powell, you can imagine what he went through. And he was a 5-star general. He was the top of the Pentagon. I mean, I'm just giving examples because it's there. That's just things. So
I think the thing, Andrew, that you said that really resonated for me was this idea that there's layers of trauma in all of us. And right, some things much more egregious than others, sometimes from our childhood, sometimes from military or a career or an accident, right? An incident, like you said. But you also said that the responsibility is to heal from the trauma, right? Or to find support or the resources necessary. Right. And the two of you, I've heard already some things that you're doing to support other veterans or to support others in healing from trauma. So I'm curious, tell us a little bit about that. What is it that you're doing? What are you working on that you'd like for anyone that's listening who might be able to take advantage or might be interested in sharing this with somebody else? What are you doing, or what kind of projects do you have to support others healing from trauma? Nuria, let's start with you.
Well, the podcast, the Woman of War podcast, is the next thing that I'm building. Like I said, it's still in its early phase, but
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to make people feel that they have someone to identify with and where that they can come and get resources and stuff. So create a safe haven. So that was the goal, and I'm still building it. So I have a lot to break down about it and different compartments and how I want to structure my episodes.
Got it. So you have Women of War, the podcast, you have the Redeploy short movie, but you're also working on another project. Tell us how that, what the project is that you're working on, the one that you did with your son.
Oh, Ethan Art Venture, the animated short film project. It's about a young illustrator who basically learns that he has the power to create the narrative in life. So that's the next project that I'm working on. I feel that it's an important message for kids to become aware of, something that they should be mindful of. And these are the things that, I've learned along the way, and I want to share it with not just my son. I feel it can be something other kids can learn from. I feel it could be something interesting, and knowing that anything that they do believe in, it all starts with the power of belief. So if I can help them to be mindful with something like that, and doing this short film / I would like it to be a TV series. Each and every
Put it out there, put it out in the universe. Yes.
Each and every episode can cover different lifelong lessons that they can learn from, this character who goes on art ventures with his trusty pencil. So I feel the pencil are the kids. We are the pencil. So whatever we choose to create in life, we have to understand that we have the power to create it and recreate.
So you said it's Ethan's art venture.
Ethan Art Venture.
Ethan Art Venture. How close are you to finishing that one? I know you were doing some GoFundMe.
Yeah, surprisingly, someone donated $1,500 to my GoFundMe yesterday.
Hey.
Yesterday, I kind of took a nap and then woke up to money. I woke up to money.
I think all of us would like that. Woke up to money. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, so now that enables me to, because I want to add more, because I think when I started the journey with doing the short film, I kind of made it a pilot trailer, which is more of a proof of concept. So I needed to add something else in there. So now this enables me to add what I need to add, and should be done by the summertime and pitching it for the fall. So,
How old is your son?
He's 11. He'll be 12 next week. So.
Excellent. Oh, so excited for this project. I think, look, Nuria, I don't know where it all came from or what we are meant to do necessarily, how we get the guidance to know that we're meant to do something, but it sounds like the project that you have, the commitment that you have, the passion that's driving it is really coming through you, right? There are things that are being communicated somehow to you. Maybe, I don't know, if the universe, spirit, however you want to call it, but it sounds like there's so much that you're offering the world of yourself and resources, not only to help those who have been in situations similar to yours as a veteran, but also children, right? And, like I said earlier about this, the idea of celebrating those who have passed away in war, actually the people who are left behind should also be memorialized, because they have as big an impact, if not more, sometimes trying to deal with the pieces of that, rebuilding their life, whether that's financially, emotionally, psychologically. There's so many things. I think this art venture, Ethan's Art Venture, it's a great resource for young people. We don't get that. What do you do with a 12-year-old, 11-year-old who has parents who, been deployed and they don't come back the same, or they don't come back at all, right? Like there's so.
Another thing too, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
In the animation, it's about a real kid who lives in his head, the animated world. So I do educate kids on different personality traits, such as anxiety, introvert, things for them to become aware of. Not just about the kid having the power and him just learning lifelong lessons about other people and how to interact with others.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you. And I'll make sure to put some information about that in the show notes too.
Yeah,
Andrew.
That sounds great, because I got a granddaughter that's 6, and you should see her. She's an artist. She draws and cuts stuff out at 6 years old. She has these stories. She loves rainbows. She loves rainbows and she loves unicorns. I mean, she has all this stuff set up at the house. It's like,
So, and
man,
that's the thing. I like that, the fact that you said she's an artist, and I feel like we all are artists in life. So
Yeah.
going back to what would you choose to create?
Yeah. Andrew, what projects do you have that you'd like to share with us or with people that might?
I'm I don't have anything entrepreneurial going on at all.
Not yet.
And I do want that in the future, you know.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I look after my mom. She just turned 99
Woo.
the 18th,
Yeah.
18th of May. And you know, I look after my granddaughter because my daughter just had a little boy 5 months ago. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff going on. So
You
now
got some family things.
part time, yeah, I got family stuff, and we just moved back into a house that burned down 3 years ago,
Wow.
2017, brand new house. So everything is moving forward, but it's like, you know, I want to be out there for the neighborhood, for the community, so to speak. There's a difference between neighborhood and community, right? You know, neighborhood's a bigger thing. Community is micro, but
Mhm.
you know, sharing resources, connecting people, you know, with the resources. Like veterans, there's all kinds of resources, um, financial.
Mm.
You know, the VA works with the SBA very closely, Small Business Administration. You know,
Yeah.
and all these universities, they have so many opportunities for veterans to connect.
Mhm.
You know,
And I'm
here,
unaware of those opportunities, so we have to speak.
yeah,
Well, you know, it's funny you should
Yeah.
mention that, Nuria, because I'm curious now. You guys did not know each other an hour ago when we started this conversation, almost an hour now.
hour.
Yeah, almost an hour now. So I'm curious from the beginning of this conversation to where you are now, what are you noticing about how you feel about this conversation or what you've learned?
I learned that there's some possibilities with my podcast here with you guys, with the both of you.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's, I mean, the technology connects people easier.
Yeah, it just so happens today I had an opportunity where my mentor shared with me that she shared my podcast idea with someone out in LA, a paid podcast platform, and they wanna read what I have right now. So I'm trying to build these sticks right now and set up the episodes so that I'm not just bringing in myself, I'm bringing in other people with things that
Mm,
yeah.
excellent.
Yeah,
That's
there's
awesome.
all kind of possibilities.
Possibilities. Yes.
Yes, so
You got,
happened that I had that meeting today, and then I have this today right after it. So it's like
and the money, you woke up to
resources.
money.
And you woke up to money. You're having a good day.
You got options. You got options to choose from.
Yeah.
That's what you always want, is the options.
Yeah. And Andrew, how are you feeling about it? Like, what are you walking away from having this experience, meeting a stranger on a podcast and talking about something
Dare
quite
to
personal?
dare to imagine.
He's nervous.
Are you nervous, Andrew? Were you nervous coming in?
No, I think as I've gotten older,
Mhm.
you know, I'm just more patient.
What? Say more about that.
Um, all things are possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty much.
you know, just you have to be patient with it. You know, I know, so like with my granddaughter,
Mhm.
she's learning, but she's young. She's 6 years old. What does she know? She knows what she has imagination,
Yeah.
right? What did Einstein say? You know, uh, knowledge can take you so far, but imagination can take you around the world. So I mean, you gotta be patient with the process, because I mean, it's not gonna be overnight, but it's the plan. You know, that's what they say. What is it? SBA. You know, what's your plan? Because plans can change,
Mhm.
or you can alter your plans, but putting stuff in a time frame, you have deadlines, and you have an outline, and so you have a plan, and you have a process, from A to Z.
And now you have the patience. So planning, process, and patience.
You gotta have patience.
Got that.
Gotta have patience. I
Yeah.
mean, look, my mother's 99 years old.
You're gonna be around for a while, probably.
Well, yeah, could be. Could be.
What surprised you most about this conversation, or what did you discover through this conversation?
Well, I mean, I knew this, and we all have things in common.
Yeah.
It's just we don't know until we start talking about it, or you're in the right venue, or you're in the right. You feel it's a level of trust. Yeah, because there's all kinds of trust, right? I trust you, Nuria, because you know Valerie. I trust you.
You're in.
Yeah, but I'm saying, there's all kinds of trust. And because the word trust, I mean, there's all kinds of meanings to it. So
some commonality, and the fact that there's trust here. I got that.
Yeah, and you want to empower people. I feel the same way. I mean, it's really necessary. There's too many people not going after their dreams, so to speak, or what makes them happy. Yeah. You get up every day and you're inspired and motivated. That's what you want in people. I mean, we'll all do better that way.
Yeah. And I think it's important to be empowered, but I think the idea is to be inspired, right? To be inspired. That's the part that gives us the energy, the hope, gives us access to imagination, right? And the imagination gives us access to having a plan, having the process, maybe having some patience, all of that mixed up. Yeah, I got that. And Nuria, what about for you? Any surprises or anything you discovered in this conversation?
That, like he said, that we have some stuff in common, and just having the conversation opened up new possibilities of, possible opportunities.
Yeah.
For us. So
how are you feeling now? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know what to expect, but your family, so I kind of trust you.
I know.
Like, okay, I'll do it. When I got online, I started to get nervous. Like, wait a minute, she said live? Live, like that's a trigger word. Like she just said live. Like I felt like, oh, we're about to be live on NBC, even 5-4. Like, oh God. But
not yet.
I knew that the kind of conversation we were going to have, it was about something that we had in common. So I was open to whatever that was. So
I so appreciate that. The two of you said yes, like I said earlier. More importantly, that you really brought yourself to this conversation. I know we could go longer, we could probably go deeper. You have so much to share, but I'm discovering too that there's a way for the two of you to collaborate potentially, or share and highlight resources that maybe one didn't know that existed, right? You can share that with each other. And I think for those who've been tuning and listening here is an opportunity for them to also see and hear the impact that being in military service could have on a life beyond, right? Beyond those couple years, 4 years, 20 years, not only on the health and well-being of individuals, but also, oh, hi. Oh, are you playing back?
those couple years,
Nuria, you might need to mute yourself.
Not only on the health.
So I think Nuria is playing back the Facebook Live. Um, so the idea here is that I think, have the opportunity to share with others who might be listening. Hey, what resources are there? So if you do have some websites or any information, feel free to share that with me, and I'll be glad to add it to the show notes so people have access to it. But more importantly, thank you for sharing yourselves, sharing what you're up to, and be willing to connect with each other. Any final words?
Over and out.
Over and out. 10-4.
To be continued.
Copy that. My brother says Roger that all the time. I'm like, oh, Roger that. Excellent. To be continued. Over and out. Great.
Wow.
So thank you, all of you, for tuning in to this episode of Not Quite Strangers. So excited that we always have interesting, fascinating, thought-provoking conversation with people who barely know each other, but always walk away having a sense of connection. And that's what I want to bring to all of you. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, www.notquitestrangers.com. Therefore, you get this episode and many others in your inbox. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.